Good morning, everyone. I'm Leanne Beckwith, Swiftland's Continuing Education Coordinator, and I would like to welcome you all to today's webinar, Social Media, Expanding Your Digital Presence, and today's presenter, Brian Pitchman. Brian Pitchman is the Director of Strategic Innovation at the Evolve Project. He loves to share his knowledge and experience about innovative technology through presentations and hands-on demonstrations. Brian's passion stems from growing up in libraries, and he loves collaborating with both libraries and companies. He is dedicated to bringing libraries into the future using cost-effective measures and strategies. Most of Evolve's work includes helping libraries bridge the digital divide, break away from traditional library views, become trendsetters, and finding or building innovative projects geared towards interaction and collaboration. He's been working with startup companies across the country, promoting libraries and encouraging people to work closer with libraries in developing new ideas and concepts. In the end, Brian wants to change the way people see libraries. Please help me welcome Brian and enjoy his webinar.
Hi, everybody. Hopefully, you can all hear me okay. Uh, as Leanne stated, we're talking today about social media and expanding our digital presence. Essentially, what we're going to do is to kick off talking about just some simple branding and marketing philosophies around that we have to make sure we have a good basis of before we start talking about social media. And then we're going to talk about some social media general principles, so things to keep in mind when you're creating your accounts and setting up your accounts. And then we'll dive into some social media strategies to help you gain that traction you're looking for, and then a couple other social media apps that may be beneficial to you. As a big picture item, social media is a lot about networking. It's about meeting people you don't ordinarily meet. So we're trying to use our connections essentially. Basically, finding people outside of the ones you know personally. They always say that you only have one mom, and so the idea is that you use social media to find and reach out more people. The other part of social media is about sharing of ideas and concerns. So when you're posting as a poster, you want to try to post things that encourage collaboration and engagement. You all probably use social media in the same way. You're consistently liking posts or sharing posts or commenting on posts. And when you do that to your friends and family, other people that you aren't connected to see what you're posting. And they might agree or disagree, and you start these conversations and engagement pieces. So it's a really neat ecosystem of constant conversation. And the last piece, and I always try to encourage this, a strong network is always needed to be successful. You always will need people who support and love what you do, and it works really, really great when there's always the naysayers in the world, or internet trolls, as you will, that may post negative things about what you're doing. But if you have a strong network of people that love you and adore what you're doing and support what you're doing, they will all reply in kind and support you and back up whatever you're trying to accomplish. So building a good social media presence is one, but then building a good collaborative network is another piece. And we're going to touch on both of those today. At the end of the day, social media is about expanding our circle of influence. And the circle of influence is a term that means you're connected to one set of people, but those people are connected to a different set. And the idea is you keep expanding your circle of influence, so you're making more connections between people. As an example, that's your circle of influence. You have your individual layer, and you're connected organizationally to people, and that could be friends, family, coworkers. But those folks are connected to your local community. So those individuals are connected to more people. And then eventually, as you connect out, your local community members are connected to global communities. And so their reach is larger. And so as you expand out, and as you converse on social media, the idea is you continually to expand. A really great social media page or a network would be ones where you're not only just localized, but you have national or even international connections following you, liking you, and having conversations. Um, I would say when you're talking about social media in general, it's not about numbers. It's not about, I have 50,000 followers. It's about how engaged those followers are, if that makes sense. Um, and so when we talk about social media and when you're starting to figure out what do you want to post, the other important thing to think of while we talk today about social media is your brand. Um, One of the best examples I've ever heard was think of your brand as a person, and everyone has their own unique story, uh, and you use this story as part of your posts on social media. How you act, if you're humorous, or if you use memes all the time, or if you're more serious, or if you're more informal, where you like to share articles and facts and data. So you have to determine what is your library brand. How do you perceive yourself with your community? Um, and so to do an antiquated example, but I've always liked it, the commercials of I'm a PC and I'm a Mac, where you had like the quote unquote boring individual saying he was a PC, but then the cool, hip, stylish individual saying he was a Mac. And the idea was when you're watching the commercial, who do you respond with? Do you want to be hip and cool, or do you want to be like some boring businessman? And that was the marketing take um, during that period of time was cool people, and I'm using air quotes that you can't see, but cool people have Apple products. The other thing, so we have brand as a person and then brand as a personality. And this is the idea or concept that um, across 5 pillars, so sincerity, excitement, competence, sophistication, and ruggedness, what is your personality across the networks? Um, and to accomplish this, usually people that are using social media, they'll dedicate either a person or a team that all have the same personality that can represent the company. In other words, if your library wanted to be the funny one that posts the funny posts all the time and the funny videos and the funny gifs, you probably wouldn't want the serious individual that doesn't like jokes on your social media team or posting because most likely they're not going to find any of those things funny anyway. Um, so at the end of the day, the core focus is identifying how you want to present yourself, and then you stay consistent with that. Um, and so if you're continually consistent in how you act, how you post, and how you converse, people like that, and you'll find those individuals that continue to connect, which requires you to understand what kind of patrons you have. Um, Watch how they communicate. Watch how they communicate already on social media, and then you can use that as a gauge of how you're going to introduce your social media brand. One sec. I'm sorry, I'm like recovering from a cold, so I'll be pausing to drink a few times. Um, so once you establish your brand and your personality, then that's when you can start building relationships. Um, so when you're using social media, you want to start building these interactions with people, and you may find yourself interacting with the same group of individuals continually. Um, and so that's great, and that's important because those individuals will help bolster your brand because as they communicate, most likely their friends will see that, hey, Bob really seems to interact with the library a lot, and I want to go check this library out because I think that's really great of what Bob and the library are talking about. So as you build relationships with your library or brand, you want a consistent tone of voice. So again, when you use the same type of people or the same individual, that's usually the easiest way to accomplish the same tone of voice. And the image got rid of some of the text there. So strong customer service interactions. So the other side of social media you'll find if you haven't used it yet is people use it to vent. People use it to complain about a service or complain about a product or complain about some sort of interaction. And so it's very, very important to always be on top of those. Because if someone starts talking bad about something, your brand starts to derail. And so you have to be really quick to listen and understand how that interaction went. Engage with them and say, hey, I completely understand with what happened with you. We're going to do everything we make to make this right. And then reinforce it. Some libraries will actually go so far if there's a really bad post about something their library did, they'll then post a blog post about what they're doing to improve whatever service interaction occurred. and it's a challenge to do. It's like a whole bunch of customer service that you also have to utilize if you're using social media. So it'll be a mix of social media skills or marketing skills as well as customer service skills, because you want to make sure that you head off any negativity, and at the same time, if there's positivity, you want to make sure you share that. Some people will actually build graphics, like with a cool text background of a survey result of someone saying, "I really love this service because of X, Y, Z," and they'll make a picture for it, put the quote on it, initial the name of the individual that made the survey comment or made the wonderful post, and then people share that. Um, so it's really important to kind of always have a pulse of what people are saying and reacting quickly to negativity and sharing positivity. And lastly, your brand should be an experience. Um, so, as an example, Willy Wonka is an experience brand where it's supposed to be like a fun and magical world, even though it's literally just candy. And so that's why their packaging is always bright, colored, and fun. That's why their social media posts are always bright, colored, and fun. And so continually be consistent, having that personality and building these experiences are all crucial when you're utilizing social media because you want to match it to your brand. So far, does that all make sense for everybody? And if you have questions at any point, feel free to interrupt, and I want to dive in. Um, so social media is a ton of hard work. Um, as we stated, you need to be vigilant and active on the social media accounts. People expect quick responses. So if someone tweets something out about something they're not happy, they're going to want to reply, and the quicker you reply, the better the world is. Um, and the other piece is you need to do a lot of data tracking, a lot of monitoring, and you consistently revisit your social media strategy. And we're going to talk a little bit about kind of developing a social media strategy today. Um, but there is a lot of effort. There is a lot of planning that you have to put into place, such as building a schedule of when you want to post, figuring out all the content you want to post in a given month, and making sure it's all ready to be posted. And at the same time, planning what's called a campaign of how you want to onboard or outboard a ton of posts, and what do you want to promote? Do you want to promote events going on in your library? Do you want to promote a specific piece of content, whether it be a blog post or a tax referendum? Or do you want to make a story out of it or experience, posting a string of posts all with a consistent message or hashtag? So these are all considerations that you have to consider. Someone asked, how can you stay consistent when so many people are posting from different branches? So in that regards, is there a social media team? If you can have a powwow, if you will, or a huddle or a team huddle every week about what we're going to post this month, what we're going to post this week, and how we're going to interact, that could help you stay consistent in your messaging. On the other side of the coin, I've seen what other people do is they call them almost like content writers. So everyone's allowed to write content, but then all the stuff that has to get posted goes through one person. So that one person then can make it all have the same voice and have the same feel, if you will. I'm waiting. Somebody else is still typing. Does that answer your question? Awesome. All right. Cool. So if you don't have any type of social media account and you're not really positive of where to start or what platform to use, there's a whole bunch of really great data out there that shows what types of people use what types of apps. Somebody has another post or another question. Akin to that, do you recommend an organization has one social media outlet, such as a Facebook page or several? So I'm actually going to get into that in a little bit. But great question. I'll make sure that I reference it back when we get there. But the long and the short of it is, I always tell people make sure you at least you own all the social media names so no one else can take them. And you can always post, say, hey, we're active on Facebook. Go here to interact with us. Uh, Another person comments that when I post the same message out to all social media accounts. And that's a great strategy. And there's a small caveat to that. To answer that question, so the idea is making sure that your same post goes everywhere is great. Except you can't really post about a blog on Instagram because people use Instagram for the more visual aspects. They want to see visuals and GIFs and videos versus reading text. And so you can do some fun tricks where you can reference your blog post on Instagram, but use a different image to kind of captivate people to want to look at your blog post, if that makes sense. Great questions. I love how everyone's interactive. This is making this webinar fantastic. So the Pew Research Center has put out, and they do it every couple of years. I think they started in 2013, and so the newest results are from 2018. And they monitor and rank how people use Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all the different social media outlets. So the left chart shows the percentage of U.S. adults that use social media and what outlets they use. And so 73% of people have a YouTube account, which is pretty cool. I would not have expected that. And 68% have Facebook. And then the smaller and more huddled together is Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat, LinkedIn, Twitter, and WhatsApp as social media tools. So if you've never built out a social media account yet, if you're looking at the chart, you might want to start with Facebook because you can get more bang for your buck, if you will. You'll have a good chance of reaching 68% of your community. The chart on the right are social platforms based on age groups. And so they say Snapchat and Instagram, looking at the chart, are most popular among age groups between 18 and 24. So if you're running some type of social media campaign where you're trying to attract 18 to 24-year-olds for college tutoring help, you probably would want to use Snapchat and Instagram to reach those people because those are the social apps that they use the most. Ashley comments that you can also use an Instagram story, create a graphic, and add a link to the story options as well so they can just swipe up to see more. That's a great point, Ashley. Thank you. Georgian explains the reason of the YouTube account is you have a Google account, you will also have a YouTube account even if you never logged in. As a fun antidote, I attend this one conference every year, and they always think I have an Instagram page. I do not have an Instagram page, just so everyone's aware. But everyone goes, hey, what's your Instagram link? Because I heard it's really, really funny. And I was like, I do not have one. So another fun fact, when you have social media accounts, people may believe you have other accounts that don't exist that are actually really great and trendy, which I do not. So another question was, so would you recommend using Instagram if we want to reach more teens and young adults? Yes, I would recommend using Instagram if you want to reach more teens and adults because based on the research chart that Pew put out, what do they say? 71% of 18 to 24-year-olds use Snapchat or Instagram. So you would have a really good target pool to kind of attack at. And then this one breaks it down more by demographics of who use what types of online platforms based on region, ethnicity, college degree, city location, age, income. And so you can utilize this chart as well to kind of determine, what kind of social media should we use and why should we use it. And then the last one is also important to keep in mind of how often do people utilize these social media accounts. So several times a day. So Facebook, Snapchat are used more than 50% of the day, I suppose, which kind of makes sense because I have friends with young kids, and they're always on their phone sending Snapchat stories or posting messages on Facebook. So when you're thinking of your campaigns, if you're running a campaign that requires people to view it frequently, using Facebook and Snapchat are probably really great. If you're writing long messages that people don't check often, you have to figure out ways to make sure they see it. So Twitter, for example, since they don't check it as often, there's what's called the news feed on Twitter. So as people post tweets that they follow, their news feed, if you will, fills up. So if you post only once and you don't catch it right when they're going to look at that Twitter page 26% of the day or 26 times a day, they might miss it. So to get started with social media, there is a lot of options. To somebody's earlier question today, what should you start with? I always say, should you do them all or focus on one? And I always say, focus on the most influential at the time. So if your goal is to reach age group A, demographic B, and it says use this app based off of Pew Research, use that one. And work really hard to be really good at it. And the reason why I say that is if you try to do all the apps at once and you haven't done any social media, you'll probably burn yourself out because it's a lot of work to manage social media accounts, especially once you start getting all those followers, getting all of your community members engaged, to hop between all the different accounts and keep up on everyone's posts. It's a nightmare, especially if you're still learning. So focus on one or two and do really, really, really good at it. Put all your heart's body and soul into making it successful. The other piece is creating accounts with the same name. So if you have a Twitter handle or a Facebook URL or a LinkedIn page or an Instagram handle, make sure that all use the same name. So whether that's My Library Rocks, make sure all of it has the exact same name. And the reason for that is more avid social media users might go, wow, I really love following this library. I wonder if they have a Twitter account. And it's really easy for them to just type in the same Instagram handle they follow to see if it also appears on Twitter. So by keeping that consistent, it'll be a recognized brand. The other piece that I would caution you on is don't create accounts under a named email address. So whether you're managing someone that's going to be posting social media or to you yourself, have your IT administrator or someone create a shared mailbox or create an email like social media accounts at libraryname.org, because that way, if you were transitioning or you wanted someone else to take point, you don't have to give them access to your email. You don't have to log into all your social media accounts to update the email address. It's always going to be the same. And you're going to save yourself a ton of headache if you're doing this from a management perspective and you're assigning someone a task and they leave or you have to let them go. It's a pain in the butt, once again, to log into all of those social media accounts to update an email address. Someone mentions, do you recommend creating a separate Facebook profile for managing your Facebook? Yeah, or your Facebook page. I would say yes. So I've created my own Facebook profile to manage a Facebook page once that ended up getting more popularity than my actual Facebook profile, like of actually me. So keep that in mind. That may occur, or just make a generic, and sometimes Facebook catches it, sometimes they don't. Create a generic Facebook profile, but set all the settings to private so no one can search for it, no one can add it, no one can see it, etc. And then use that to kind of manage your Facebook page. Oops. So the other thing that when you're using social media, and a thing to kind of keep in mind, is what's called hashtags. And think of them as metadata tags. So as you run campaigns or as you do posts and you use a hashtag, there's people that follow hashtags. So let's say you were doing posts about your makerspace and you hashtagged makerspace. Other individuals that have makerspaces might be following that hashtag, and that will allow your post to show up on their feed. So keep that in mind. So if you're wanting to expand your market, use hashtags because people follow those, and hopefully you expand your circle of influence through them. So, as you can see, and this isn't all of them, there's a lot of options for social media. Probably way too many options. And some of the more avid users of social media accounts have one of each. And so trying to reach those people might be challenging because they're hopping between all of them. Someone mentions I've seen people use the @ and the hashtag on Facebook posts, but aren't those a Twitter thing? No. So hashtags and @ handles. So when you use an @ symbol and a name, you're able to link to somebody else's page, and that works on Facebook, Instagram, social media. Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google Plus. I don't think it works on Pinterest. Hashtags do, but the @ handle does not. You can use those across all platforms, including YouTube. And so just hashtag whatever you want as a category and people follow it. And so it's now like a common language across all social media platforms. So I'm going to talk about just a couple because we don't have like 2 years to go through all the different social media outlets. So Twitter, they say Twitter users are what's considered influencers. People tweet to start change. And whether that changes a customer service issue or it changes a socio issue or socio comment, that's what Twitter's about, influencing. And you only have 280 characters, so make them count. And so people have come up with acronyms, such as the ones on the right, to make that 280 stretch a little bit longer. And so these might be the hip and trendy things that you may see. On all social media accounts, you're able to do what's called a verification, which is usually like a blue checkbox or a blue mark or a green checkbox on social media accounts that let users know that you're a verified account. And all that means is you've gone through extra steps to show that you're at some level important and somebody may or may not be trying to copy your internet presence. But then it makes you look more official. So if there's other people posing as quote unquote your library that's not you, you may want to go through these steps of verification. So you can do that on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. However, Twitter right now, since 2017, has stopped the ability for you to go through the process of getting verification. So just keep that in mind. Some general Twitter tips. If you're having conversations with users or other people, but you want everyone to see it, just put a period before their handle name. And the reason for that is if you instantly start with @ handle name, reaching out to someone, that post won't show up on other people's feeds. So make sure you do it with a period at the front so it shows on everyone's feeds. The other piece is retweeting. If you see good posts, the idea with Twitter is people share things they like. And so if you share things you like, that person will, in the back of their mind, will go, wow, they share a lot of my posts. I want to share some of theirs. It's a psychological thing that people do on Twitter. At least that's how I see it. The other piece on Twitter is what's called Follow Friday. And it's a really great way to help start bolstering your brand a little bit, or at least getting more traction with followers, is if you do Follow Friday. And the idea is it's just hashtag Follow Friday or FF, where you post your most influential users or your most active users, the people that converse with you the most, and let the world know who they are. And then at the same time, people will start doing that for you as well. And there's tools and apps that we'll talk to you about at the end of the webinar today to help identify those users. And again, and this kind of rings true with every social media platform, hashtag as often as you can. So if you're talking about a startup or libraries or cool ideas, hashtag those because there might be people that follow it. But don't do like giant, long, run out sentences because it's uncomfortable for everyone to try to decipher what that long stretch of characters actually is saying. Um, and don't tweet too much. So when I first started with, playing around with social media, one of the feedback things, so I would go to conferences and I would like tweet like probably 100 times in a given day with great quotes I've seen, PowerPoint images. Like my Twitter feed was stacked. People hate that. I got so many messages like, "Hey, slow down on the tweeting because you're blowing up my feed with only you because you're tweeting every few minutes." So be careful with not being too tweety. One of the other pieces on Twitter, and it seems to be used more so on Twitter, is people use it as again an avenue to vent about a service. And so a really cool interaction that happened many years ago, but probably my favorite. I tweeted out to AT&T about some broken phone, and they wanted me to pay $200 in terms of insurance to replace it. And I was like, that's crazy. And so I decided I hung up, I tweeted out, and then within 3 or 4, maybe like an hour or two, I got a call back from AT&T saying, "Hey, how can we fix this? I completely agree with you." And so they ended up giving me whatever phone I wanted, and they shipped it very next day so I could have it. But this was the interaction of other brands that I tweeted out to because I broadcasted out that I'm not happy with AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint. Do you want new customers or a new customer? And that's how people see social media on Twitter. The other fun thing is there's promoted posts, and this also rings true on other platforms. Have conversations with these advertised posts, and the reason for that is your responses now are quote unquote also being advertised. So now everyone that Chase paid to see this post about we're committed to Chicago youth, we're also able to see my question about partnering with libraries. And I got so many different libraries in the Chicago area that reached out to me saying, "Hey, we saw your post with Chase. Can we get involved as well?" And so kind of ride the coattails of someone else works well. Somebody mentions, how about Facebook? How many posts would consider to be too many? So, as a general rule of thumb, I try to limit postings for accounts that I would manage, like 2 to 3 posts a day at a max, and perfect segue is utilize those posting times with when your users are most active. So there's a tool called Follower Walk that monitors your Twitter followers, and they will tell you when they're the most active. So for me, around lunchtime, noon, is when most people are on Twitter, as well as 8 p.m. after dinner, when people are on Twitter the most. So if I was planning on a marketing campaign or a posting campaign, those would be my 2 hot times to post because I'm pretty much guaranteed to get a good chunk of my followers to see it. Because they're scrolling through Twitter at noon during their lunch breaks, right after their lunch break, and then right after dinner at 8 p.m. There's a lot of different tools that can do this for you. Community IT is one of them. Is set up analytics to monitor your website, your brand names, etc. So I have a tool set. So now anytime someone posts my website name or even uses the term Evolve Project, I get a link for it and who posted it. And what's really neat is sometimes people you have no connection to, they're not even following you, will post something about your library. And that's like the greatest feeling in the world when all of a sudden you're like, "Hey, who is this new person I've never spoke to that's saying they really like my library webpage?" But you'll never be able to find that if you don't have tools set up in place to kind of monitor that for you. Setting up Twitter is super simple. All you need is your name. You can click on the use email instead. So an email address and then a date of birth. For people that are setting up library accounts, I've always just done the oldest year I could choose, if it's available, or when your library was founded. So if that was available in the year list, perfect. If not, choose a date that everyone else can try to remember. Whether that's when you first started, because you're going to use this date of birth as a password reset option. So if you ever forget your password and your email password reset wasn't working, they may ask you to verify your date of birth. So if you completely make something up, you're not going to have a good time. So do something that's able to remember. When's the last time your library did a remodel? Something like that can help you. So with Facebook, Facebook users are engaging. People on Facebook want content that they can share and engage with, such as asking poll questions and having conversations about a problem or an event, like how many of you would love to see this in our makerspace and why, and let people comment and converse. Here's some Facebook tips too to be successful. Be as part of as many groups as you can that can match the target market you're trying to hit, interest, collaborative goals. So for instance, I will always say if you have a library Facebook page, make sure you're also part of the community chamber of commerce, for instance, because you want to reach out to business owners or fellow entrepreneurs in your community, because if you're running a program and you want donations, such as for the summer reading program, if you're an active member on there, commenting and sharing, like, hey, we have resources for new businesses if they need a computer terminal to put a web page together, we can help you with that. So then when it comes time for summer reading program and you need donations, that's how we did it at our library when I worked at one, was we utilized these pages to ask for help and donations in the community, and it worked wonderfully. So again, be active in all the groups you can, communicate, like, and share. Have some humor. I always tell people that people respond best with a joke or a tongue-in-cheek comment. People like jokes and will share things they find funny. And every time they do that, when they share it across with their friends and colleagues, it links back to your page. Facebook is also very similar to Twitter setup. Again, when you do an email and use some type of shared email account, and then with the birthday, choose something that multiple people can remember, at least use as a guess if something ever happened and you needed to reset your account. LinkedIn is really great to write longer articles or stories and share them across your network. So there's a tool now called LinkedIn Pulse that lets you write almost like articles. They are articles that you can then share across your network, and people comment and share and give you feedback on them. And then way back when, this graphic doesn't really show up as well, but you can see how many people view your posts and what that level, and they see these circles. These are circles of influence. So as you can see, a boring piece of text versus a cute image of a kid with a rocket ship strapped to his back received many more likes, and 11 million? Yeah, 11 million people saw that post, which is pretty cool. 11 million people are in my professional network. 1,143 people viewed my post, and 21 people liked it. There are 2 comments, and as you can see, one person liked it all the way outside my circle of influence, and the farthest reach I can go, which would be a friend's friend's friend. Some LinkedIn tips as well, very similar to Facebook. Be part of groups and be an active member. People want to see you as a professional on LinkedIn, giving those professional recommendations. So if you're doing a project that requires some coding, join groups that talk about coding and share your feedback. Like, hey, we're trying to run a coding camp. What are your recommendations and what are your ideas? Write recommendations, endorse others, and if you have a personal profile, because that's what you're going to use on LinkedIn to interact, make sure it's completely filled out, as well as your company profile, your library profile, making sure it's accurate and complete as well. Instagram. Instagram is very about visual sharing. So people that use Instagram want to find awesome pictures or inspiration. So if you're an avid exercise person, you probably will have an Instagram page because people, like a lot of my friends that have Instagram, they're always posting their workout pics or their workout routines or what equipment they did that day. It's very fitnessy driven or food driven. I see lots of people posting pictures of the food they made. So it's very visual. People want to be inspired by some sort of visualization. It's really simple. If you already have an Instagram account and it's set as a personal, this is like a newer thing they've done. You can convert your personal account into a business or professional account. And what's great about that is then you can see more details about your followers than you would if it was a personal account. So you can see how many interactions you are, such as how many people are visiting your Instagram page or through website clicks, and how many people are finding your content and how they get there, which is really great because it shows you how your marketing is working and if your reach is far enough. Then there's the content tab where you can see the insights on your posts, stories, and promotions. And then the audience section will let you know more about your followers and where they come from. So if you have an Instagram page and it's not set up as a business account, it's really simple to do. And I posted the instructions on the top right, because then it'll give you a whole bunch of extra insight. So there's a lot of social media management at play when you're talking about social media and what to use, and basically what not to use. Kind of just as a general rule of thumb, in addition to the infographic, kind of to recap, with Facebook, you want to send more website referral traffic than any other social media network. So there's a lot of people that come from all over that land onto your Facebook page. Facebook is a little bit more geared towards news and entertainment posts, with Facebook now it seems like Facebook is leaning more towards 3D posts, so you can post images in 3D and let people move the mouse around to kind of see this cool 3D angle, or VR experiences where you can see like 360-degree videos in view. So it's looking like Facebook may, in the very near future, be more dedicated to that type of social interaction. Twitter is more of a platform about sharing content, retweeting blog posts, promoting website traffic. With LinkedIn, it's a professional network, so the content you share should be reflective of that. It's been used for sharing of articles and general professional content. And then lastly, with Instagram, best suited for strong visuals. So if you have a really fantastic photographer, for instance, or a really great graphic designer, hook them up with some Instagram posts to help you kind of accelerate your engagement. There's a really great resource, and they run it. Facebook runs events, and I was able to go to one once. It was actually really cool, and it's called Boost. So if you go to that link there, it'll give you resources to actually train you on using Facebook / Instagram, because they're the same company. But if there is an event nearby, and I checked, I don't think there's one in Florida anytime soon, but there is one in DC if you want a road trip. Check that out, because they do a really great job of running an event with a whole bunch of hands-on workshops and training to help you get better at Facebook or Instagram. And then there's a great blog post earlier this year about how to engage in social media for public libraries. A couple tools. One of my favorite tools is Crowdfire. It allows you to evaluate like what kind of followers you have, schedule posts, and more, but it does it across all different social media outlets. So it allows you to post once, and it'll hit Facebook, Instagram, etc. But what's really nice is the scheduling component, because again, we want to make sure we plan ahead and schedule our posts. And if you're doing the method that I described earlier for branches that have multiple people wanting to create content, they can all create the content, and then you have your, head honcho social media expert then curate through all that and make sure that it has that same voice, and then schedule it. And so it's a simple tool to use. Some fun stories about social media. So Social Media Wins. This is like one of my favorite success stories. Someone paid for a promoted tweet for anyone that flew, and he says, "Don't fly British Airways." What happened with him was him and his dad were traveling, and British Airways lost some luggage, and they didn't really care. They said, "Well, that's not really our problem to figure out where it went," for whatever reason. So he did what any reasonable person would do, and paid like $100 on Twitter to tell everyone, "Don't fly." What happened was, obviously, British Airways didn't like that. They reached out to him, and they gave him a whole bunch of travel credit and vouchers because they wanted to make it right. But the point is, social media is everything. Some people will go very far to share a concern about something an interaction about they didn't like. Other things to kind of keep in mind is your schedule, so how you're posting, and so, or what you're asking. So there was a Papa John's post in the UK once that wanted to know what kind of things are you addicted to, which then led to really odd and awkward posts, like cat tears is what they're addicted to. So when you ask questions, keep in mind that the internet is full of what's called internet trolls, or people that just want to post things that necessarily aren't appropriate. And it's important to be able to quickly respond, or change the conversation or delete the post. And then the bottom one here is from Tesco. They did scheduled posts, and so they schedule all these posts out. But then at the time, Tesco was under investigation for something with their like horses and horse meat, and so that was the post they scheduled. So it was a very bad timing. So keep in mind, so when you're doing your scheduled posts, and if there's some sort of drama or political thing going on at the time that may conflict, just be ready to kind of backpedal quickly. So how do you manage social media? Basically, in a broad sense, broad strokes, provide timely updates. You want to share stories and contribute to conversations and handle comments, complaints, questions, all in a positive manner. Doing those things, you'll be pretty set. Scheduling posts, again, Communit.it is recommended. The free version works pretty well, but the paid plan, once you sign up for the free version, at some point they're going to send you a coupon for 80% off the pro version. So don't buy it without the coupon if you do go down that route. So schedule your posts, use graphics and videos. Another tool is Hootsuite. And the free version used to be quite amazing, but over the years they've been limiting it more and more. So just kind of keep that in mind. And then another piece is set goals. So if you have a social media campaign, you want that solid following of users, not just based in numbers, but interactivity. Because before you do anything, you want to make sure that everyone's ready to kind of help you out, tweet and share. And you want to make sure that they're excited about your brand. If you're doing a social media campaign, get them ready to kind of share and tweet and post your social media campaigns. And again, a campaign, when I say campaign, it could be you trying to advertise summer reading program or a specific upcoming event, or maybe just your website in general. You want more people to go to your webpage. So these are all things that you can market across social media. And encourage people to retweet or repost because you want to, again, expand your circle of influence. So another little app that helps kind of control your image, there's a tool called Brand Yourself, and the free version works pretty well. It asks you to throw in all your handles for your Twitter account, LinkedIn account, etc., as well as your name on the internet, and it will monitor your Google search results. If anything negative comes up, it does a really good job monitoring Twitter and Facebook for anything bad about you, so you can kind of fix it and control your brand. At the end of the day, though, a lot of research has to take place when you're launching your social media campaigns, which means when do your users like to see posts, or when are they most active? What type of social media accounts should you use? What kind of content do they like? Do they like videos? Do they like questions? Do they like graphics? Um, there's tons of different things that you could post. You can post your blogs across social media. Um, People like company culture. So if you show the culture of your organization, if you've all went out and done a community service event, post that picture. Or you just all stayed and did a staff development day and you made fun creative crafts, take a picture and post it. Sharing questions, sharing news articles. For those that have like the Google app on their phone, I scroll through the newsfeed like every morning to see what kind of things are newsworthy, and then I'll tweet or post those out of things that I like. So two other little social media apps that I'll kind of just touch on, Snapchat and Pinterest. If you're looking at where to get started with those, there's two links there that are really well put together. One's about successful Snapchat people in libraries and how they utilize Snapchat to reach their audiences. And another one's for Pinterest, how to kind of set up your library Pinterest account and what kind of boards you should make. With Snapchat though, I've done, and it's not too expensive, so you can pay for what's called a Snapchat filter. So Snapchat is the idea of you use an app to take a picture and you can share it across with your friends. And then there's a piece called filter, so you can add like goofy doggy face over your face or something along those lines. But you can also build your own filter. So I was doing an event in Canada, hence why favorite spelled differently. On the left there was my filter I made. I took their event graphic, added some text, and then encouraged people that were using Snapchat to take a picture. And I did no advertising for it though. I wanted to see how many people would stumble across it natively. So it was like a 2-hour event, but I paid for 5 full hours. And I got 3 people to use it, 17 people saw it, and 28 people swiped across it. So the usage was 10% with zero marketing, with zero, hey, pull up Snapchat and take a picture. I just wanted to see how people would find it all on their own with no nudging. To me, that was actually really good, and it was only an $8 investment just for an experiment to see will people use something without even knowing I did it. So that was kind of cool. Another app that you may hear of is called WhatsApp. It's a messaging app, so it's used a lot overseas, but there are people here in the States that like using WhatsApp, and it allows you to message people. It's like a simple and secure text messaging system. So if you hear your users, and it's probably mostly teen users, using WhatsApp, you may want to build a WhatsApp business account. So then you can also interact with them. So there's libraries that do Ask a Librarian through WhatsApp. And so there's your tool. You can use your Windows or PC also to kind of log in and reply to posts or comments. But that's a kind of a neat idea. And some other general tips for posting if you're looking for some more. Again, highlight upcoming or ongoing programs. Some fun posts that I've seen people do is like hashtag book drop party, and libraries take pictures of all the books that were returned over a long weekend. So they had a 3-day weekend. They took a picture of all the books that were returned and saying, wow, there was a lot of reading occurred that went over the Labor Day weekend, if you will. Libraries will take photos of new displays or new books to kind of get people to come into the library to check things out. Have your patrons take part in things like the book face, which I took a picture of if you've never heard of it. It's people finding book covers and holding it next to their face because it like lines up perfectly. And then lastly, promote your handles through your website, on your email signature, on your brochures, everything, because you want people to utilize them. You want people to communicate. You consider your library a 24/7 library once you make it in the big leagues on social media, because people will always converse and comment. If you're looking for photos, there's 2 really great apps, Boomerang and Hyperlapse, that you can use that were built by Instagram, but you can use what they make anywhere. Boomerang is they create little GIFs that play forward and backward, so it bounces. So if you have someone jumping up, you can boomerang it, so you film them jumping up in the air, and then the app will make it look like they're going up and down. And Hyperlapse is another Instagram app that will allow you to do a time-lapse video. So if you were doing like a reshelving project, you can take a video of someone putting a whole bunch of books away and then post that uh, using the Hyperlapse app, and it kind of shrinks a longer video into a shorter segment. So thanks for attending. I encourage if you, and I want to be able to offer this out for everyone. So if you want me to review your social media accounts, email me your social media handle, and I'll give you some ideas of what you can post, what you can do differently. Um, I was hoping I would have time to do this with one or two people, but we only have 5 minutes left, so I apologize for that. But definitely email me, and I'd be more than happy to take a look at your social media accounts and give you recommendations. And this goes for everyone that attended live and the recording. But with that, are there any questions? Will this presentation be archived? I assume so. Yes, the PowerPoint is shared. Thanks, Chris, for the follow. Thank you. Definitely appreciate everyone coming in, and feel free to reach out at any point. I like helping people and talking about this kind of stuff. So uh, carry on.
Okay, great. Thank you, Brian, for an informative webinar. Attendees, if you enjoyed this webinar, we ask that you join us on Wednesday, November 6th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time for Brian's next webinar, Getting Started with Makerspaces. As always, we encourage you to keep an eye on the Swiftland Continuing Education calendar, Swiftland Facebook page, or your messages from the listserv for more training. Thank you everyone for attending and have a terrific rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.